Welcome to the TMRN Time Monk Radio Network. I'm Gemini, and today is Friday, the 14th of October, 2011. Joining me this evening as co-host is Uranus Rising.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
We have a wonderful evening planned with Paul Muir, a physical, astral, and etheric healer, joining us from Wales. Paul has spent decades researching orbs, solar and galactic energy, remote healing through direct energy, string theory, as well as human, animal, and plant energy. Paul has written a book titled Orbs, Energy, and Myths, The Secret of the Ancients. Paul's work is available on iTunes and YouTube. How are you this evening, Paul?
Very well, thank you. Great. Lovely to be on you.
We're pleased to have you join us. The Time Monker radio administrator and producer of the show is Fox, and he will be doing the recording and technical support of the show. Several members of the WebBot Forum were kind enough to join us this evening. Please welcome members Neil, Peace for Gaia, and Periwinkle. The interview will be available for free on Time Monk Radio's YouTube channel and at the website webbotforum.com. Paul, are you comfortable and ready for the interview, sir?
Yes, I am. Yes. Thank you very much.
And tonight we will begin with Peace for Gaia.
Hi, Neil. I have a few introductory questions to ask since people may not be as familiar with your work as some of the other people we've interviewed. The first question is, what is an orb energy, and how did you end up researching these phenomena? And was there a specific event in your life that inspired you to start this research?
I'll start with the second part of that question. It's probably the easier one. And I suppose I better wind the clock back a little bit of time. I was very successful as a young man. I went into industry fairly young, and I got to the top in management, and that was project management and design. By the age of 26, I set up my own interior contracting design company. And that took me through to the 90s. And during that time when I owned and ran those couple of companies, I'd worked for Walt Disney Corporation and many other corporates. I did a JCT design build project for the European costume centers. So what I had, or what the training that I had, was one of detail, watching and the design process, but there were disciplines of surveying and observation that I brought to project management. So these skills I brought to the research. So I'm just giving you a little bit of background. During the time of running that business, in the early 90s, I had 2 or 3 near-death experiences. They were very interesting. They were life-changing. I mean, it's very difficult. And I witnessed a couple of things that I found to be true later on. And I thought, to hell with business. I closed the one business, and obviously because I was ill, I just had to close it down, pay up whatever money I had. And the photocopying arm that I had, which was another franchise, I gave to a colleague, and that ran for a few years. Then I handed over that business. But I was only interested really in those events. And I think after those events, I could just feel and hear energy. I didn't understand what it was, but that was the sort of point that in my life that took me on this path. So I don't know whether that answers the question, but it was that was the path that inspired it. I started surveying what people would call the divine matrix or the cosmic tree or whatever. And obviously, because I was in business, I'd never looked at anything like this. I never read any mythologies. I'd only been in business. I'd been working 12 hours a day or 14 hours a day. So it was like as though I came to science with all the science disciplines, but without any of the baggage of understanding anything. In fact, I would say that I was a novice to science. And I think that was a great benefit because nothing was clouding the water. I mean, I could see things, and I would look at them basically in the search for truth. And so I started surveying the sites, and I translated those into AutoCAD, which is one of the computer packages I used to use in the designing process. And I discovered the paired split field that probably nobody in the world knows about, or I don't know, that may sound a bit arrogant, and that led me to finding paired split stones, and and the flush mounted ones on the surface of the earth, which any of the ancient archaeologists would know nothing about. So that was the event. I studied the actual actions of the fields where the megalithic stones were standing. I then began to understand the tiny little notches, slots, triangular cutouts on the bottom of the stones, or angular points. And I realized that the stones were standing on energy fields. This was common knowledge to most megalithic researchers, or certainly not the archaeologists, but I understood how the field worked, or at least parts of it. I couldn't say that, I could build a stone circle, because they would be very difficult unless you understood this cosmic tree, this divine matrix totally. So that was the sort of fundamentals to looking at this. And there's some very interesting stories about some of the stones that I found, Wales's largest stone row and things like that. So there is evidence that I can demonstrate the understanding of the paired split field. So what I wanted to do, the stones, some of the stones were tilted like they were pointing at stars. So I just wanted to see whether if there was any other sort of reaction between the fields of energy that the standing stones were standing on, and whether there was any energy reaction with the megalithic standing stones. And of course, it didn't take us long we started filming above the tips of the stones. And to be honest, it didn't take us long to capture these stones outputting energy. In one of the 50 sequenced photographic session we took, the megaliths had an aura over them. We could also, in the two flashes of the camera, so you get a pre-flash and then a secondary flash. The pre-flash sets the focal length. Now, these were taken at night. We could see the bars firing out of the tips of the stones. When we after the halfway through this process, we were obviously kept on reviewing the photographs. I asked John, who's with me here today, to put his hand on the top of the stone, or put his hand over the stone, and his hand was glowing. There was an aura around his hand. There was an aura around the top of the stone. Then I asked him to touch it because I was doing sitting on the floor photographing these things, the bars, and the aura around the stones. And as he touched the stone, the whole process stopped. So the picture came back into focus, and it was as though he was earthing the energy that was present around the stones. So one thing that, again, why I became interested in the web boss, and there was a number of things that Cliff was talking about, was that the stones coming back to life, or the living stones. And I often wondered when in hearing some of his work, whether he was referring to ancient megaliths bursting with magnetic auras, and so they would be coming back to life. So there's still, and we repeated touching the stone, taking our hands off, touching the stone, taking our hands off, and the effect switched on and off. So anyone who's saying, well, it's flashback, they couldn't explain. I've taken this to camera specialists. They couldn't explain why the photograph, when we are touching the stone, is crystal clear, and when we take it off, there's an aura over it, and it looks like flashback, but of course it isn't. It's flashback off magnetic field. So we pretty quickly got an understanding that the megaliths, the bars, and the orbs were all linked. And over time, we understood this energy as probably the energy of creation is the best thing that I could say. It's a very difficult one, because you could, if you were saying string theory, well, that's the energy of creation. They're looking for the Higgs boson. So you could just say, well, it's the energy of creation, and I think that is probably my simplest answer to it.
Oh, wow, that's quite a story. So the next question was, is this the same or similar energy as like chi or prana, mana, sacred breath? But from your explanation, I'm wondering, maybe it is similar, but those words seem to apply to human etheric energy manifestations rather than, I think what you're describing and interacting with are energies of well, the earth itself.
Yeah, and well, you see, what we did is we generated a number of theories. And any new science you've got to try and create a theoretical model to back up your observations. Otherwise, it's a piece of science. We've observed this, but we don't understand what we're seeing. So what we did is we created a number of theoretical models to back this up. So I'm a little bit lost then. Where was I at? The theoretical models was I on about?
Well, we were just wondering if it's the same energy as, people refer to as chi and prana. Those are more human originating, from human body.
I would say that yes, it is, but there are many aspects to this energy, but it's the unseen forces